Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the IndyCar1909.com at the Glen. My name is David Westergreen. I will be joined tonight by Zach Evans and our producer, David Huckleberry. We will be racing in the Finger Lakes region of New York in Watkins, Glen. No boot tonight, but we will be turning right and left at a classic road course. Zach, it's our first road course of the year, but I think you and I did both of the road courses, or two of the three road courses last season together. So, what should we expect for this one? I think last year we did Coda and Road America, maybe.
Yes, it was Coda and Road America. Obviously, Watkins Glen is kind of the one. Even your oval only stock car guys have turned a lot of laps at Watkins Glen on various games and services over the years. This is the one probably most of these guys have the most familiarity with. It should make for an interesting night. Obviously, we also have the new build that dropped today. We'll talk more about that over the course of the evening. But overall, I think familiarity can sometimes bring contempt, and it'll be interesting to see how these guys get around Watkins Glen tonight.
Yeah, it sure will. And I would say your description is accurate given my own experience at Watkins Glen. I think I have the most laps of any road course at Watkins Glen, and I'm definitely one of those oval only guys. So I think these drivers are going to be working into some familiar territory despite a brand new iRacing build this morning. And Zach, I know you talked to some of the drivers. Give us the lowdown on maybe some of the changes that we might see tonight based on this iRacing build. I know what I heard, but what's new from these guys that they're concerned about this evening?
So, for the most part, the Cup car, this next gen NASCAR Cup Series machine, relatively untouched in the build update. Really, the only change is a little bit different parameters as far as damage. We might see it, and it didn't even really specify whether it's more sensitive, less sensitive, just different sensitivity as far as how the car will react to contact, to damage. And more importantly, for tonight, some different dynamics. Again, they didn't really specify how different or in what degree or what direction of different, but the tire temperatures will behave differently on these stock cars at road courses specifically, which obviously Watkins Glen, as you could see, a road course. Talking to some guys, it didn't seem like there were too many concerns about it being a game-breaking situation. Everybody feels like it's still the same old Watkins Glen, but maybe a little bit more slide into tires, maybe getting them a little bit hotter is kind of some of the feedback I got from the guys I spoke to, which could make taking tires a little bit more important. As you may or may not remember, the last time the Elite Cup Series came here to Watkins Glen, Ethan Stanley won the race and ran all 61 laps on the same set of tires. Not sure if that will be the case tonight or not. That's probably the biggest change I'm expecting, but we will see. Maybe somebody will take that shot.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing I was seeing in the chats before the race was that these guys are concerned with that tire set, right? Are they going to now change tires? And I think from what I can tell, I think the new strategy will be to take tires at the midpoint of this race. Um, we'll see whether these guys change up that strategy or not, but as a whole, I think you'll be looking to the typical regulars to see who's going to go out here and win this race, and those guys are going to present that strategy. And obviously, Ethan Stanley, one of those guys who was kind of pioneering the no tire strategy at these road courses, and it might be a little more impactful tonight. So we'll have to see. I'll be interested, and with the road course, there might be a lack of full course cautions. Is another factor for us tonight. These guys are probably going to run all 60 laps under green flag conditions. And my expectation is that they'll pit around the midway point and slap on tires and go. But if we happen to get one of those track blocking accidents or we have to throw the yellow flag,
Well,
there might be some strategy involved.
well, let's remember a change for Elite. This has nothing to do with the build update, but a change with Elite this season. It's the R being a little more sensitive. It's not got to take a track blocker. It's just got to take a couple of cars on the racing surface to give the admin the ability to throw that yellow flag. It's way more likely we'll see a yellow flag this evening, and then of course that changes the strategy entirely if it does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will, and we'll obviously keep our eyes on that for the remainder of the evening tonight. I do want to shout out our admin, Robert Hill. He's been working all of our races and providing race control for this Cup Series, and he's, in my opinion, done a great job. And he also, broadcasted the ARCA race last night. He does a lot for Elite Racing, so a big shout out to Race Control as always.
Indeed, he'll definitely be the eyes in the sky tonight to see if we will get one of those caution flags this evening. While this is the first Cup Series road course race of the season, we had the Truck Series at the Worldwide Technology Raceway road course earlier this season. That race did go clean and green all the way. The Rebelus Photography Grand National Series had a race at Suzuka, however, that had 3 cautions. So I think if we get away clean, we might be in good shape. The concern, of course, is once you bunch those cars up for a restart, you send them all 3 or 4 wide into turn 1 or try to get them funneled down into the bus stop here as we're riding on board with somebody here on their qualifying lap heading towards the bus stop. That's Mike DeWalt, a newcomer tonight. That's where you'd be concerned about maybe more calamity on a potential restart.
I've seen several guys struggling with their entrance to that bus stop. That seems to be the big problem. I think there's a jut out wall right at the entrance to that bus stop, and if you try to approach that too wide, it's going to be very easy for that inside car to whack that wall on the right side of the bus stop. So we'll have to watch those drivers carefully. I think turn 1 is also a potential calamity corner. We'll kind of get a view of it as Mike DeWalt hits the front straightaway here at Watkins Glen. You bury it down into the very hard right-hander, a very long braking zone on this turn 1. That's definitely going to be a point at which some drivers go flying off the course. A lot of runoff area there and a lot of potential for some chaos as we go through the rest of tonight.
Yeah, and one thing I did hear, I'm sure we'll get the starting lineup here on the screen shortly as qualifying has ended, but one thing I did hear from a lot of drivers is the curbs in particular in the bus stop, for whatever reason, a little bit harder to manage tonight. I don't know if maybe that's a car update or just dealing with that a little differently, but could be a trouble spot tonight as well.
Yeah, it sure could. And it looks, as we look into our starting lineup, looks like absolutely nothing changed from last week. Ethan Stanley on the pole, Jonathan Cutlip starting second. Those guys were 1-2 for just about all of our 500 miles last week at Darlington. David Tooker will start third tonight with Chad Frankenfield going from fourth, and Chad's a guy, loves Watkins Glen, big fan of this place, and one of the guys that turns a lot of laps here and tries to get a big result. Tyler Fode will go from 5th. His teammate Ryan Gable will line up 6th. R.C. Anderson starts in 7th, and a rare start for him in the Pro Edge spin-off team. Gavin Hibbs starts 8th. Seth Rawls will start 9th, and Leighton Norgard starts in 10th. Justin Wadsworth starts 11th, and Scott Crump, his teammate, will roll from 12th.
A little further back, we have Matthew Weeks starting in the 13th position. Nick Indelicato will roll off 14th. Jordan Owens lines up 15th. Darren Staff will start from the 16th position. Zach Rogers starting 17th. Jess Story will join him on row number 9. Ty McIntosh starting 19th. Ethan Burrell rolling from the 20th position. Corey Abbott lines up 21st in car, 21. Justin Fortner will start 22nd this evening. Johnny Thomas starting 23rd. Richie Hearn will start 24th.
Yep, Mike DeWalt will go from 25th. We saw his final qualifying lap just before this. Ray Bracey goes from 26th. Jesse Racimus will roll 27th, and Chris Stouffer will start 28th. Chris Wright starts in 29th, and Michael Hosack will go from 30th. Nick Massey starts 31st, and Brent Jones will start 32nd. Andrew Rucker starts 33rd. Joshua Personette will start 34th. Mark Urbilis starts 35th, and Trey Holmes will roll from 36th.
Rounding out the field, Andrew Rucker starting 33rd. Josh Personette 34th. Mark Rebelis 35th, fresh off a trip from Indy. Trey Holmes starting 36th, Michael Goodman 37th, Casey Hatch rolls off 38th, Kyle Hanshaw starting 39th, Carlos Acosta will start in the 40th position, Hunter Smith 41st, Joshua Clark 42nd, Dustin Dewar shotgun on the field from position 43, David Westergreen not racing.
Yeah, he's in the booth. But that is our starting lineup here for the IndyCar1909.com at the Glen. Yeah, Zach, as we roll through here, can anybody stop Ethan Stanley? I think that's the question on most of the top 10's mind right now, is trying to put a halt to the stranglehold that 91 car has had on the lead of these Elite Cup Series races.
Definitely, it feels a little bit like a perfect storm with the season he's had to start off here in 2024B, and of course, being one of the top road course guys here in Elite. But let's not forget, out of 3 road course races last season, we had 3 different winners. Ethan Stanley did win the most recent one at Road America, which, as you mentioned, we were on the call for that one last season, but Ryan Gable won at Circuit of the Americas, and David Hooker won at Brands Hatch. So 3 different guys won those road course races last season. We could maybe see a different winner tonight.
We sure could. I got my eye on that 5 car. Right, Jonathan Cutlip had a very dominant car last week, sped on pit road. There at Darlington late in the race, wound up with a chance and I think finishing in the top 5, but ultimately Jonathan Cutlip is going to need more results like that, and I would say probably a win in order to get into the playoffs here. He's certainly fast enough to do it. His biggest obstacle is to his inside right there. That's Ethan Stanley. So we'll be on the lookout for all of these fast drivers here as they go to turn 60 laps at the Glen. Pace car is off. Ethan Stanley brings them down, and we are racing at Watkins Glen.
Already. Somebody had a bad start there. I believe that was Cutlip that kind of stacked up that left-hand lane going down to turn number 1. Fortunately, nothing of dire came out of it, but already a little bit of a stack up, and that has allowed Ethan Stanley to check out.
Yep. Bad start for Jonathan Cutlip. It stacks up Chad Frankenfield, and Ryan Gable pushes them back a couple of positions as we roll through that uphill S zone, going down towards the bus stop here on the long back straightaway here from Watkins Glen. Scott Crump and Leighton Norgard side by side just in front of Ty McIntyre. That's Nick Delicato running the 10 car, and Leighton Norgard misses the bus stop. He'll have to come to a complete stop. Scott Crump has to cut the track. He'll have to serve a penalty for that, and we'll see a lot of that, I think, tonight. That bus stop is certainly a treacherous area. These guys are fighting to remain under control through there as we take a look at what happened to Scott Crump and a few more guys. Nick Massey had an issue. He missed the bus stop.
Yeah, I think you definitely saw kind of what we were talking about, that bus stop, hard braking zone, those curbs really upsetting the race car. Scott Crump, I'm pretty sure, had all 4 wheels off the ground at one point there, but he was able to keep it under control and get back on the racing surface. Obviously cost him some positions, as now we're looking at Chad Frankenfield challenging Gavin Hibbs for the 7th position coming out of turn number 1.
Yep, and everything has single filed out for the most part. Couple of battles on the racetrack, one just behind Chad Frankenfield. That is Justin Wadsworth, side by side with Seth Rawls, and give that spot to the 6th car, last week's runner-up finisher.
Justin Wadsworth, runner-up last week in the Southern 500. Looking for another strong showing as we watch these cars hop.
RC Anderson.
Yeah. RC
Anderson. Scott Crump's going around. Something's going on. I'm interrupting the heck out of Zach. Scott Crump is sitting sideways in the bus stop. Hunter Smith has disconnected. A lot of chaos here in the opening laps at Watkins Glen. Scott got bouncy over the bus stop, went off the track. So too did RC Anderson, out of position number, I think, 3. He's lost several spots now.
Ooh, I don't know. There might have even been a little bit of contact there. Hard to say. Certainly the car did get upset over the curves there, but he might have had a little bit of help from the 55 there. No,
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think Darren Staff got into Scott Crump and sent him spinning.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like or looks like, and certainly that appears to be what Scott Crump believes happened.
Justin Wadsworth, Seth Rawls continue to battle, and yeah, I think the video speaks for itself right there, as looks like Darren Staff, who did miss last week's Southern 500, gets into Scott Crump, then Tim sliding, and we move on as these cars begin to form a train around this Watkins Glen Speedway. Kind of everyone's stacked up behind this 6 car of Wadsworth. I think Wadsworth's trying to save the tires a little bit, but he's under pressure. Seth Rawls has gotten alongside him a couple of times. Then there's Matthew Weeks, who's one of those self-professed not really a road course racer, but usually pretty fast here at these road courses. I would put my money on a Matthew Weeks top 10 today.
Right now, Matthew Weeks just outside.
Oh, Ryan Gable!
Oh, that's trouble. Everybody's staying right. Ryan's trying to let everybody know he is all the way to the left-hand side on the exit of that final corner there. And I think he's got to survive it and be able to get the car pointed the right direction here shortly. There he goes. But definitely a tough break for a guy we would have had as one of the contenders tonight.
Yep, that's one of the guys who's won some of these road course races in the Elite Belly Up Cup Series, and yeah, just a little bit loose, a little bit hard entry on that final turn there. I think it's turn 8. Nick and Delicato got very squirrely, but managed to keep the 10 car pointed in the right direction, and Ryan Gable will be the unfortunate driver there that loses all the track position based on that spin and that loop.
Meanwhile, up here we have, that is Jess Story and
Ethan Burrell.
Ethan Burrell side by side, making their way towards the final 2 corners. Justin Fortner now got to try to get around Jess Story as well. So this battle is around 15th, 16th, 17th position here in the running order as they make their way out of the final corner back down to pit straight.
Sure is, as Justin Fortner will not. And Darren Staff is going to get the tally for the contact with Scott Crump there in the bus stop. That's the call from race control. So Staff will not, I believe, be able to make contact with another driver without receiving a parking in this race. Look back through this field, single file. That battle between Fortner and Story has singled out. Zach Rogers just behind, followed closely by Richie Hearn. Then it's Norgard Abbott, Johnny Thomas, who is not a self-professed road course lover, Christopher, Ray Bracey, and Mike DeWalt, all within like a second of each other back here around 15th to 25th.
You know, for me, a little bit surprising to see Ray Bracey back here. I know he's a new name here in the Elite Cup Series, only his second start with the series, but usually pretty stout at the road courses. In fact, has a win here in Elite on the road course at Tsukuba in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. So a little bit surprising to see him back here in the 20-somethings at the moment.
He'd been struggling with the braking. You know, you had talked about that at the beginning of the show, right? Just the different sized braking package on this Cup Series car, and Ray had been struggling with, I think, attacking those braking zones a little bit. And you know, he's comfortable. He feels like he underqualified the car. Also, I managed to get a message from him before the race started. Underqualified the car a little bit. He thinks he's got a lot more pace than this, and I would tend to agree with your assumption there that Ray's a pretty good road course racer, and as guys begin to make mistakes in front of him, I think Ray will pick those spots up and utilize the tires to his advantage and make his way towards the front here before the end of the race.
Certainly, we will see if he is able to make his way forward this evening. Right now, he is behind Christopher in that 47 car. See, a lot of those, speaking of Christopher, see a lot of those throwbacks that we had last week at the Southern 500 still out there on the racetrack. Of course, that's the Richard Petty colors on the 47 car, and obviously they had their moment in the spotlight last week, but some of those were some really sharp looking race cars, and it's cool to see them back on track this week as well.
Yeah, you look back, back up to the front rather. Jonathan Cutlip up here in 4th is still sporting that Tony Stewart paint scheme from the 1999-2000 season, and I think that thing is a great paint scheme, and I personally like it a lot more than the FedEx car. So hopefully Johnny keeps that one running there. Chad Frankenfield's also running a somewhat of a throwback scheme. Now, Chad did not run this scheme last week, but Chad is a big fan of Robbie Gordon, and he is sporting the 2003, I believe, Robbie Gordon colors from when Robbie won at Watkins Glen. I think he does that every time they come to Watkins Glen. I'm pretty sure Chad breaks this car out.
We've definitely seen this combination a time or two from Chad Frankenfield over the years. Like you say, big fan of Robbie Gordon's, and like you said, Robbie won with this design at the Glen. Gosh, I guess it's been 20 years ago at this point. 21 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, I hate to do that. Hate to do that to you, David, but
I definitely watched that race live.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. Got a replay here.
We're going to the Rebelist replay machine. This is Josh Personette. He's got that Dave Marcus throwback he ran last week. He missed turn 1.
And
we have a caution.
We have a caution on the track. I am not sure. Trey Holmes has some pretty significant damage.
That's Michael Goodman.
Yeah.
We'll see. I see tire smoke there.
There's Trey Holmes spun around, and then I think Goody's going to get a bump from Ryan Gable right there.
So it looks like Trey Holmes had already gone off track. And while Goody was trying to navigate around it, he got the kiss from Ryan Gable. We'll see. Oh, so this actually starts... I don't know if Jesse spins. I don't know if it looked like he was trying to avoid hitting Scott Crump. Not sure if he did actually make contact or not. We'll have to get another look at that.
Yep, and then Jesse's car got righted before we had actually tuned in there. So this started between Jesse Racimus and Scott Crump. So really it was like a 4-car wreck.
I do think there was some contact there, and you see Scott Crump in the opposite lock trying to save it, but of course Jesse Racimus had the brakes fully locked up trying to avoid the contact. That obviously didn't do so, but he was trying, spins himself out in the process. That's what's got to collect Trey Holmes. There we can see Scott Crump just took off towards the runoff and saved his race car, so he was able to escape this despite the contact he received. And now this is where you're going to see the stack up with Michael Goodman as he tries to get by these cars scattered across the racetrack. He's got to have to check up because otherwise he's got to be sailing through the grass, and he's not going to make this final corner. Ryan Gable says he could have made it. Ryan Gable was still full song heading towards the grass, and there was just the awkward presence of the 44 car in his way.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would have worked out for Ryan if Michael Goodman hadn't set the screen for him, but he was got to try, by God.
Ryan running underneath the preferred line on the racetrack, that's not a new thing. But
okay. All right. We didn't have to bring that
up. But we'll take a little ride on board here with Ryan Gable, see what he saw approaching this chaotic wreck. You can see the smoke up ahead, but as far as he can tell right now, everyone's still pointed in the right direction, and when he gets off this corner, there will be very slow cars, very fast cars, and yeah, straight in the back bumper of Michael Goodman. They're all coming down pit road.
And to be fair, he might not have realized he was lined up with the grass because he was behind Michael Goodman. We do see some guys.
I lied. They faked me out.
David Tucker, R.C. Enerson.
That's it. About 20th place.
Yeah, I think out of the front runners, those are the only ones. But there were a few guys further back. That's Corey Abbott. We see.
Corey Abbott on back did elect to come down pit road and take tires. That'll include Johnny Thomas, Mike DeWalt, Ray Bracey, Jesse Racimus, and more. Chris Wright will be down pit road for tires. Nick Massey will be down pit road, and we'll get to see kind of how this new build affects these tires and the tire degradation and whatnot. If these guys carve through the field a little bit, if those tires seem to be at an advantage at all, I think if we potentially get a caution flag, you'll see the leaders elect to come down and get tires. But this is a purely, off-cycle attempt by some of these drivers in the back, and including David Tucker, who's a guy who can definitely put down some very quick laps. If tires are a big advantage, we'll find out. We'll be tracking the 19 and the 50, and they'll come carving through this field of cars that is staying out on the 10 lap old tires.
And another thing too, especially I don't know if this will help necessarily RC Enerson and shoot Tucker so much, but the guys further back, you're not giving up a lot of track position. You're also this is going to shorten the pit stop you're inevitably going to have to take here shortly. At some point during this race, you're not going to need as much fuel if you went ahead and packed it in this pit stop. So that will shorten that pit stop, which could buy you some track position over a long green flag run. We will see if that helps them out. But as you can see, the field is doubling up. We're getting ready for another restart. Just worth noting, though, I mean, we saw that last incident. It wasn't a track blocker. That's part of those different rules this season. And now that you've got all these cars bunched together, all it's got to take is 2 or 3 of them to get sideways, and we could have another one.
Exactly right. Yeah, these guys are going to have to be a little more cautious, especially with those warm tires that have got 10 laps on them here. Pace car off. Ethan Stanley leading them back to green in front of his teammate Tyler Fody, who has taken over the second position, and the green flag is out. Stanley gets the big jump. Jonathan Cutlip gets a good jump on that inside lane, but Fody throws it in up top, and he'll clear for second.
Through turn number 1, you see Gavin Hibbs able to make his way around Chad Frankenfield. That'll put him in the 4th position as the field makes its way up the hill through the S's. A little further back, you see Darren Staff. He's in the 9th position. Jordan Owens still sporting that Bobby Labonte throwback, running 10th.
No battling here in the front of the field. It's kind of that mid-packs group, and David Tucker does not fire it in on that bus stop. Leighton Norgard missed the bus stop once again, and Ray Bracey goes spinning off of someone's nose, I believe, and the 7 car will head to the back.
We'll get a look here on the replay. I think.
Oh, he got the bump. He got the curbs. You talked about that too.
Got the curb, upset the car, it spins off into the runoff area. Fortunately, no contact with anything, but definitely a lot of time lost there with that spin for Ray Bracey. Back up front, Ethan Stanley already a lead of more than a second.
Yeah, that'll be, I think, common in this race here tonight. Ethan Stanley just seems to be in his own world when it comes to these road course races. Just guy really gets around these road courses well. He's really quick on the gears. He's very good at utilizing that heavier brake package. He just makes up time everywhere, and these guys just cannot find an answer to that 91 car right now. And if this holds, that's his 3rd win of the season. He's racking up the playoff points. This is already looking like another just a crazy dominant season for a guy that did not make the Final Four last year.
Definitely a strong start to the season as we watch these guys make their way through the inner loop or the bus stop. Looks like that's Chad Frankenfield trying to get that spot back from Gavin Hibbs, try to move back into the 4th position. Couldn't quite get the run out of the carousel, but definitely giving Gavin a lot to think about at the moment in that 15 car.
Yeah, he's putting the pressure on, but that's really all you can do in this next-gen car is try to force the driver in front of you into a mistake. We've seen it with a number of these next-gen road course races. Just tough to make passes, tough to find a spot in which you are the better car, as we do have a battle a little bit behind this one. Nick and Delicato has driven under and past Jordan Owens. That is a battle for 10th, and we got a wreck. This might, and that's going to collect David Tucker.
That is bring out the caution.
Caution's out. David Tucker is in this wreck.
Justin Fortner is high-sided on the curb. He cannot. Oh, now he's got it rolling. He was stuck for a second there. I thought for sure he was beached, but fortunately he was able to rock that car free. We'll get a look at the Revless replay machine. There's the contact that sends Fortner around. Is that Tucker that got into him?
It sure is.
And then they stack up here. He's trying to stop, but here comes Zach Rogers. Here comes Richie Hearn. That's when the caution was necessitated. You see Ryan Gable able to sneak around the outside. So is RC Enerson. Does Scott Crump get by? Yes, he does.
I don't know if anybody else got collected.
I think you're right, but obviously that that was a track blocker. I mean, you saw those 4 cars literally covering from the curb to the pit exit lane there. They that was definitely a necessary caution, as David Tooker will retrieve the tally. Here, this is where I thought Justin Fortner was beached. You can see the car moved ever so slightly and just kind of rotated in place. And even here, you can see the right front for a second there was the car was rocking forward, but the right front was not turning because it was not touching the ground. But eventually, it was able to get just enough contact with those Goodyear tires to get the car moving again, and he was able to
Oh,
rejoin festivities right in front of Ray Bracey. I'm sure he enjoyed that sight.
yeah, Ray, maybe the one guy who definitely wanted to see a caution right there, given his prior spin. But this will, bring out another yellow. It's going to bunch the field up once again, erase another big lead for Ethan Stanley, and there's the onboard of David Tooker knocking into Justin Fortner. He has been given the tally by race control for that contact, and you saw it in our number of camera shots there. The front tires were locked up for David Tooker. At that point, that car is not being steered or anything. He's kind of along for the ride once he chose to get into the corner just a little bit too deep.
Definitely a recurring issue we've seen. Once those brakes lock up, really hard to avoid whatever happens next. You saw that with Jesse Racines for the first incident that brought out a caution, and now this time with David Tooker, who, I mean, as we mentioned, one of the guys who won last season, won at Brands Hatch, has actually won twice here at Watkins Glen in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, but definitely a setback for him tonight with that.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, I think we're going to go ahead and throw it to our sponsors, and we'll come back for the restart.
Flames will burn and sparks will fly at the NHRA Midwest Nationals, September 27th through 29th at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Kickoff race weekend in style with 2 qualifying sessions in one day, plus the can't-miss show of Nitro Under the Lights on Friday, September 27th. Get tickets at WWTRaceway.com with kids 12 and under free and general admission. The NHRA Midwest Nationals, September 27th through 29th at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
All right, you guys are watching the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar, sports commentary via podcasts, forums, and articles on topics ranging to nearly every sport. Not your usual sports site. Check them out on X or at bellyupsports.com. Premier sponsors are Blue Egg Marketing. Rev up your business with Blue Egg, your marketing pit crew. Turbocharge your lead generation with experienced drivers that can navigate the competitive track to connecting with your customers. With Blue Egg, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. So don't spin your wheels. Accelerate success with Blue Egg. fueling small businesses to win big. Worldwide Technology Raceway. Worldwide Technology Raceway is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of St. Louis, Missouri. Features a 1.25-mile oval that hosts the NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and the NTT IndyCar Series. They have a 2-mile infield road course used by Speed Tour Trans Am, SECA, and the Porsche Club of America. There's a quarter-mile NHRA-sanctioned drag strip that hosts the annual NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series Midwest Nationals event, which I believe is coming up very soon. And finally, they have the Kartplex, a state-of-the-art karting facility. 40 Racewear joins us this year, makers of the ultimate sim racing shoes and custom apparel designed for sim racing by sim racers. 40 sim racing shoes are custom engineered to connect racers to the pedals in a way no other racing shoe can, and still provide all the comfort needed for those double and triple stints. Visit 40racewear.com and check out the original racing gloves for your feet. And our race sponsor tonight is, of course, IndyCar1909.com. Sponsors a lot of races here on Elite. IndyCar1909.com for IndyCar information, past, present, and future. That's our sponsors tonight, gentlemen.
Yep, those are our lovely partners that are helping us pay the bills for this Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Ethan Stanley continues to lead this race, coming to the restart at lap 17. Tyler Fody is currently in second. We saw during that commercial break that Jonathan Cutlip and Ethan Burrell came down pit road to put some fresh tires on two of the faster cars that we've seen this season. Those guys are restarting 28th and 29th now, so they've given up a lot of track position for that fresh rubber. Through this final corner, we will see the restart with two Lake Norman Chevys on that front row. Got a third one running in fifth in Justin Wadsworth. We'll see if those Lake Norman guys can get going as the pace car is off and Stanley goes very early, and he gets a great jump on the field once again and settles into the lead as Fody will start alongside Hibbs. Behind this group, it is 3 wide for R.C. Enerson and Jess Story. They almost get into each other. They're still 3 wide going up the hill, and R.C. Enerson will clear through with the fresh tires. He got around Jess Story and Scott Crump, and Crump will now clear Jess Story from right behind. We have trouble.
I believe I saw Jesse Racimus around.
He is spun in that uphill. I want to say that's turn 4 in the area where Jesse is. This is right around those guys that took tires. Cutlip you see right in front. Ethan Burrell swings by. Racimus winds up not getting impacted by anyone. But the yellow flag is flown once again here, with Racimus' car sitting in the middle of the track with oncoming traffic. Another 1 second lead for Ethan Stanley erased.
Yeah, that's certainly the concern. Cautions breeding cautions. That's what we've had here. Once again, an early incident after that restart, as Jesse Racimus goes around in the S's here as we get back underway.
That restart was a little more chaotic than the last one. And Dave, I'm wondering if we can go back and check out R.C. Enerson's jump on that restart there, because he had a pretty big moment on corner entry, and for that turn 1, I thought it was going to result in a wreck, but it wound up that everyone made it through okay. Look, he lagged back off at the 29 of Jess Story a little bit, and once they got past the start-finish line, RC just took to the bottom, and there we go, 3 wide on corner entry, and yeah, right there, a little contact from Chris Stouffer in the 47. That's a moment right there. I feel as if the caution probably could have very easily come from right there. Noted that Jonathan Cutlip's restarted in 28th. He made up 2 positions and got to 26th after all of that. And the Jesse Racimus slide, that is noted a racing deal by race control Robert Hill. And I imagine we'll be cutting this caution a little bit short and getting back to racing pretty quickly here. So I'm curious, Zach. I don't know if you are fully aware or like where we're at, but I wonder how close some of these guys are, like Jonathan Cullip, to making it now that we're getting some of these extra caution laps.
That's a great question. I'd be surprised if we don't see some people pit here, because I feel like you've got to be pretty close at this point. Gavin Hibbs is going to pit.
He's not. He faked you.
No? Oh, okay.
Nobody's coming. I would think if the window was open, some guys would be coming down. RC's coming down pit road again. Corey
Yeah, so I
Abbott
guess
coming
the
down
window
pit road.
not open. Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. If we were in the window, I figured it'd be a driver's meeting on pit road. But I think you're right. We must not be there yet.
Does not seem to be the case. And I would assume then that, maybe RC and Corey Abbott can try and stretch their fuel. I just, you can build up a pretty big lead on the road courses, so that might not result in like a win for Corey Abbott if he were to stretch it from here and go all the way, but it could result in the top 5 finish, right? Like, I don't see the harm in pitting now and just staying out, see what happens. I feel like eventually we'll go green here.
I eventually, yes. All it's going to take is one restart where the field gets strung out, and we should be back to green flag racing. I do believe that. It's just getting through these restarts that can prove treacherous on the road courses sometimes. There we see an incident with Nick Massey and Chris Wright, which was probably while checking up in all of that.
Was that under caution?
Oh, maybe it was. Full disclosure, I do not have my sim open at the moment. I was having some connection issues. I think this was under caution. I think this is while they were catching back up. Or did he have a connection issue? Because he is passing.
Yeah, that's what that looks
like. Because usually when you see somebody just passing under yellow with no regard like that, they don't see the race cars they're passing.
Yeah,
we
he's
had
been
that
dropped.
Incident. Yep. Like I say, I have lost connection, and maybe we're having similar issues, because normally I never have connection issues, and I just had to restart my deal. So I wonder if there might be a larger issue, which I hate to say it, sometimes you get that on a build day.
Mm-hmm. You sure do. It's certainly a possibility. As we're live, we're getting ready to get restarted here, coming out of the final corner. I certainly hope that everybody else's connection remains stable. We've seen that plague a number of teams this season, but the pace car is off. Ethan Stanley will restart here, and he gets going early once again. And he does not seem to be pulling Tyler Fode through. I would hedge my bet that he is not giving Tyler Fode any sort of countdown, any sort of opportunity to make up that ground that he gains on these restarts, because Ethan Stanley is pulling massive gaps on the starts of these races, and he's kind of leaving Tyler Fode to the wolves right now as Gavin Hibbs hunting Tyler Fode down. And I'll tell you, if there's somebody in this field who needs a good run, it's the driver of that 95 car, Gavin Hibbs.
And certainly in a good position at the moment, but like you say, Ethan Stanley has just been checking out on these restarts as we watch the field make its way through the inner loop.
Battle there you did see was between Ty McIntosh, Justin Wadsworth for 7th. Matthew Weeks is sideways on the exit of the carousel. He will save it, does not wreck.
Wow.
That was very nearly a big-time disaster. We've seen some big wrecks in real life on that corner. Weeks still under fire from Mike DeWalt. He's going to get under fire from a Leighton Norgard. That puts Matthew Weeks in a really rough spot. I've seen a lot of the guys who I kind of view as very stable drivers having some significant issues with controlling the car on this new build. Here's a look at Casey Hatch, who gets the wall in a single car incident.
And very fortunate that was a single car incident, because those tire barriers, at least in the sim, have a tendency to act more like pinball flippers, and you saw how quickly it threw him back into the racetrack, but fortunately the field had gone by before that happened.
Battle for 7th between Wadsworth and McIntosh. Wadsworth thinks about charging the bus stop up the inside. He thinks better of it. tucks in line behind the 35 car. And I talked to Ty last night. He felt like he had a pretty good chance at running well in this race. And up here in 7th, his Shift Esports teammates are right in front of him in 5th and 6th and 3rd. Good night so far for those Shift Fords. They've had some struggles this season. Ty was all flabbergasted when he told me that he was the highest current points driver in that Shift Esports team. And after that good Daytona 500 run he had, he's running really well right now, up in 7th. I think he would certainly take this result.
And that last time through the bus stop, you saw the risk and reward there for Ty McIntosh. You saw by really throwing it in there, he was able to open up 2 or 3 car lengths on Justin Wadsworth. Wadsworth starting to eat back into that gap over the rest of the lap, but he made up a lot of time through the bus stop. But of course, the counterpoint to that is how the car reacts when it lands. If it sticks, it's great. If it doesn't stick, it's an adventure.
Right. And if you are a Ty McIntosh, maybe a Gavin Hibbs up here in 3rd, he's maybe the biggest one, is you can't afford to bin your good run in the bus stop. You might as well give up a 10th or 2 to ensure that your car sticks through that bus stop. And these guys are playing that game all race long.
Leighton Norgard was off in the grass on the bus stop. I think he maybe had some door-to-door contact with Jonathan Cutlip, but he kept it pointed the right direction, lost several spots, but we stay green here.
Let's go rewind it and take a look. Looks like there was an incident for Justin Fortner. Fortner lost it, got loose going up the hill. Turns, I think that's 3 and 4 right there, and Fortner loose, and then he makes contact with that Armco barrier. And then up here in front of him, you'll see that a Leighton Norgard contact, but we'll jump back to live. There's a battle brewing up in front of Fortner and Rabilis. Another battle you see going on here. That's between Ray Bracey and Richie Hearn and Ethan Burrell and David Tooker, all fighting. Bracey, I think, is out there on older tires after spinning, but he will hold off Burrell for now.
There you see Bracey in that number 7, that green and yellow Bojo car. Ethan Burrell, of course, in the 37 that he's made also familiar here in Elite and in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series.
Position change there for 7th on your screen. Ty McIntosh and Justin Wadsworth are back battling up in the top 10. As Bracey continues to hold off Burrell through the carousel. And this battle rages on. Bracey not wanting to give up that track position to those Pro Edge Toyotas, but I think the Pro Edge Toyotas have a little more speed on them right now. They have a little bit fresher tires than on the 7 car.
Yeah, and definitely a little more experience in this car as well, as you mentioned earlier, talking about Bracey.
Yep, he's certainly learning the ropes here for South Shore Racing, and those are a couple of good guys to follow that he's running with right now. Justin Wadsworth did clear by Ty McIntosh. The battle is about to be for 8th, I believe, on the track between McIntosh, Crump, and Ryan Gable. And what about that recovery drive by those 2 late Norman Chevys that both found themselves facing the wrong direction? One of them through no fault of his own, one of them through a little bit of contact, one of them through missing that final corner, and both of them have recovered into the top 10 and will now be battling side by side for that 9th position and give it to Ryan Gable.
Oh, but he overshot the corner a little bit. I think Scott Crump had thoughts of the crossover. Don't think he's going to have quite enough. Now he will settle in behind Ryan Gable in that 01 car and in front of Darren Staff in the RK Motorsports 55.
That's his best friend that got into him in the bus stop a little bit earlier, but it appears Scott is more focused on getting up closer to the front of the field here and working with his teammate as Richie Hearn overcooks turn 1. Back there, they are still side by side between David Tooker and Ray Bracey. Ray has just kind of run his line. And
this is an awkward spot here for that.
Well, Hearn gets back on the track through the S's, and it forces Tooker through. Bracey will get by the 73, and it'll now be Leighton Norgard's turn to deal with it as Ryan Gable went off in the bus stop.
we see Richie Hearn, hop, skip, and a jump through the bus stop there as he's working alongside of Leighton Norgard. Somehow they get through that without any contact or further issue, but still Richie Hearn giving up position after that moment in turn one that's just completely derailed this entire lap.
Yeah, that was a wild one here as we watch another side-by-side battle right behind this group between Zach Rogers and Michael Hosack. And then back on the tail end of this group is a guy running a little bit slower than everybody else, and I'm very intrigued whether Corey Abbott can maybe save enough fuel to make it to the end. I doubt it, right? But I'm keeping my eye on this because he is very clearly just riding. I think Corey qualified a little better than this, qualified 21st. He's certainly got some pace, but I think that 21 car's just riding. I think he's going to see if he can't make it to the end. He's not really running for points. You know, he's missed a race here. He's just going to hope for a win because that's your ticket into the playoffs.
I think the problem with that is
the speed of these road course drivers that are going to pull
the speed of the
away.
road course. But you're already, even when you're at full boogaloo, you're giving up a second and a half to a guy like Ethan Stanley.
Yeah,
if
maybe not a race to win, but
if you're saving fuel, then he's got to pit and still come out in front of you, or if he doesn't, he's got to chase you down. So I don't know. I don't know about race win, but he definitely would pick up spots on the people he is racing against who do pit, if that is indeed what he's doing, and if he can, more importantly, actually pull it off, which I don't know. Like I said, I feel like if we were in the window of that being a strategy, we would see a lot more people pit.
Yeah, the other guy who pitted with Corey Abbott is R.C. Anderson. He is up to 14th or 15th on the grid right now. He has bypassed Mike DeWalt and Jonathan Cutlip in the last couple of laps. So that's the kind of status quo for the drivers who pit as Abbott makes his way around Michael Hosack to that 30th spot. Trying to move us up here in the field a little bit. The recovery drive after getting squirrely for Matthew Weeks looks pretty impressive, and up near the front on the podium, Chad Frankenfield has driven by Gavin Hibbs for that third spot, but Gavin's still applying pressure to Chad Frankenfield, and they're just driving in the tire tracks of Tyler Fode right now, who about 5 seconds behind race leader Ethan Stanley. It is just a no contest for that number 91 car right now.
Yeah, Tyler Fode is leading the GT class at the moment in the IndyCar1909.com at the Glen. This is the battle for the GT lead, you could say. Tyler Fode ahead of Chad Frankenfield and Gavin Hibbs as we go on board with Gavin Hibbs in the number 95 Shift Esports machine. Of course, we mentioned that Robbie Gordon throwback. I can't quite make out the number. It's definitely requesting you keep back a certain number of feet. I don't think Gavin Hibbs is interested in that at the moment.
No, I do not. As we do ride on board with Gavin Hibbs through a lap at Watkins Glen, and if you at home are any way unfamiliar with the course here in Watkins Glen, New York, it's right about here. The NASCAR layout changes. You can see that there's kind of a path off to the left there where you could drive down the hill and make a few extra turns. NASCAR cuts it short. We are following the NASCAR layout here tonight. You'd rejoin right a little bit before here where they enter into this penultimate corner. But as Gavin Hibbs working on the back bumper of Chad Frankenfield, we can kind of ride with him here and enjoy a lap around Watkins Glen. And this shortened course, 8 turns I think total?
That's what iRacing says, yes. Getting into counting corners is always a controversial topic. I mean, in our other league, we were arguing over how many corners Concord has, which, of course, I think it wasn't that long ago we were arguing here about how many corners Pocono has, and I'm not here to question anybody's intelligence, but iRacing says this layout has 8 corners, yes.
I guess how many corners is the bus stop really?
Yeah, there is. I mean, that's the age-old. What do you count as a corner? I mean, at tracks like Lime Rock, they count that little left-handed bend up the hill before you get to where they've installed the chicane. That's not a corner. Like, come on.
Nick Delicato has looped it behind this group. He is sideways in front of the field coming off of turn the carousel, turn 6. Yeah, we are very lucky that there has not been a big wreck. Robert Hill has not thrown the caution, and that now seems to be the right call. And Delicato is pointed the right direction and pacing. But my, that was tense for a few minutes. The 5th place car loops it on the corner exit of the carousel. Just as we were talking about those corners, now those drivers have to navigate a blind corner into smoke. And, oh, it's Scott Crump that almost clobbers into the 10 car, who has immediately come down pit road. Mike DeWalt is also on pit road, and I wonder if the pit cycle is now open here.
Yeah, this is roughly the halfway mark, so I'm sure if this race had gone green, this is where we would have naturally seen some pit stops. I'm sure Nick and Delicato is more interested in getting those tires off that machine. They're probably shaped like cubes now. Certainly some other drivers will go for the undercut here as well, now that they are in the pit window, and see what kind of magic they can work.
Mm-hmm. Nick and Delicato did come down pit road, as you can see him pulling off right here. I think there's some damage to the left front corner of this number 10 3-wide TV Ford for Shift Esports, and it has not been a terribly good season for Nick and Delicato, I don't think. And it was running 5th at the time of that spin. He'll have to play catch up here, and he might be hunting for a yellow flag.
Certainly, that's what he would need to make up some of that ground. We'll get a look here, as I believe I saw out the corner of my eye Darren Staff come down pit road. This is Kyle Hanshaw getting out of shape through the bus stop, and Mark Rebelus almost followed him all the way to disaster, but eventually bobbed and weaved his way around Hanshaw. There we see Scott Crump on pit road. We see Darren Staff on pit road.
Would have to double check. Do we have a halfway playoff point for Ethan Stanley to have won? I believe we do. Yeah. So Ethan Stanley wins that halfway playoff point. I don't think that was ever in doubt. He's got an 8-second lead over Tyler Fode, and that's only been growing since all of these. I guess it'll happen at the end of this lap, but barring a catastrophic connection failure for Ethan Stanley, that halfway point was always going to be his. And there he comes.
There he is to take that playoff point.
And halfway leader will be Ethan Stanley. Chad Frankenfield looks like he's alongside Tyler Fode for that 2nd position. But no, it's Gavin Hibbs on the inside that'll have the run down that long front straightaway. Chad's going to try to outbrake Tyler Fode going into turn 1. He keeps it tight on the corner of the 40, but that does not work. And Gavin Hibbs will roll back into the podium spot of 3rd place.
No, that did not pay off at all. It allowed Gavin Hibbs to get by for that 3rd position. Chad Frankenfield will have to settle into the 4th spot for now as Tyler Fode continues to lead this battle. There we see a Leighton Norgard on pit road in the number 12 for Abbott Motorsports.
Norgard down pit road. This battle rages on for that 2nd spot, following behind Tyler Fode. And I do wonder a little bit, is Fode holding back these 2 Fords? They've been right on his bumper for the entirety of this 30-lap run. It's not a 30-lap run, it's more like a 15-lap run, but you would think Fode would pull away if he were significantly faster. And Fode's fast on the road courses, but it's certainly not the bread and butter where you typically see this 40 car pulling away. As here comes Chad Frankenfield utilizing the undercut, shocking no one.
Chad Frankenfield bringing the 15 car to pit road. Certainly hoping, at least in the position he was in, he certainly feels like he was faster than those 2 cars in front of him. So maybe get off sequence with them, turn some faster laps away from them, and see if he can't get in front of them through pit strategy instead of trying to pass them on the racetrack.
Yeah, Chad definitely performing the undercut to perfection here. We'll see if Fode and Hibbs answer this lap. I think you might have to, because it seems like it's a battle for 2nd, right? Ethan Stanley's, all the way through the carousel. Tyler Fode and Gavin Hibbs are just now entering the carousel. Big time difference right now between these 3, and Stanley can just wait for everybody to pit behind him and then come down pit road and have the freshest tires once the fuel runs dry on that 91 car.
We'll see what happens this time, if either Tyler Fode or Gavin Hibbs will answer. Right now they're racing pretty hard for that 2nd spot. it does not look like either of them will come to pit road this time. They are not ready to make that commitment just yet.
Yep. And Chad Frankenfield will get a lap or two with the fresher tires there on Gavin Hibbs and Tyler Fode once the fuel cycles out. And that'll be the question. Is Ty McIntosh, Ryan Gable down pit road from inside the top 10? It seems like a good time for it. Not the first car down pit road, not the last car down pit road. It's Johnny Thomas also making his way down pit road. And hey, shout out to Johnny Thomas. Top 20 run, I think, on pace at a road course. That's certainly not something I think Johnny would have told you he was expecting.
Back on track, we're looking at Jess Story here running in the 8th position behind Chris Stouffer in that 47 car. RC Enerson just ahead of them.
Stouffer's been having a very good run. Probably one of the first he's had this season in that 47. Been a bit of a tumultuous year for our 4D racewear. They've had some good runs, but they've also been in their fair share of incidents. And for a young team, you just got to learn. You got to put in the laps. And Chris Stouffer running top 10 right here at the road course, certainly a place that he can go out and keep that 47 car clean and make some hay. So here he comes down pit road.
He's got to come down pit road. I was about to say, he was hugging that apex pretty hard, made the indication to me that he was probably going to pit. Indeed, he does. We'll see where he comes out in the 47 car.
Hibbs and Fode back up front to Hibbs and Fode. They are still out there. So a second lap for Chad Frankenfield under the potential fresher tires. The 95 and the 40 staying on the old tires and trying to stretch it out till that fuel runs dry. Behind them, about 4 seconds, it's Steph Rawls just in front of Justin Wadsworth, right at about a half second in front of him there, and those two kind of similarly spaced, Lake Norman and Shifty Sports cars there, but about 4 seconds apart. We'll see if now is the lap Tyler Fode and or Gavin Hibbs hit pit road.
I will say
it's coming. So is Ethan Stanley.
No,
Hibbs didn't come, but Ethan Stanley's down pit road.
Ethan Stanley did, but Tyler Fode and Gavin Hibbs stay out here. So there's your leader on pit road. I was actually going to say, so this last time by, so the lap that just ended for Tyler Fode, he just ran a 12:74. Oh, I'm hearing reports of a crash into bus stop.
Ray Bracey, Ethan Burrell, that's Darren Staff.
And it looks like it will not bring out the caution.
That would have been bad news for all the guys on pit road. Jess Story, Jonathan Cutlip, Ethan Burrell, Ray Bracey, and all down pit road here. And looks like Staff might have just gotten a little bit loose. I didn't see any contact with Ryan Gable there.
No, certainly not.
And Gable with another off-road adventure. What's that, his third of the race?
It's been too many for his liking, I'm sure. Is Chris gotta get into tires there. Tough break for him.
That's what I get for talking about him and mentioning the good run. Yep.
They gave him a meatball.
Oh, that's what I get. Well, I'm sorry, Chris. Ray Bracey off pit road. Ethan Burrell, Jonathan Cutlip all off pit road here. Jess Story as well.
So what I was saying before that incident, unfortunately, Chad Frankenfield's only making up, well, now he just ran a 12:29 on lap 35. So he made up maybe a half second that lap on Tyler Fode. But the difference is not as dramatic as you'd expect, considering the difference in those tire lives.
Yeah, and that was one thing we were discussing before the race and in that kind of pre-race segment is how much of that tire degradation are we going to see, and is it something that we can potentially, see from these guys that the tires are going to not wear? Are they going to wear more significantly? Is there going to be a gap? And right now, does not look like there's much of a gap at all. Tyler Fode ran in the 1:12s. Chad Frankenfield on fresh tires ran in the 1:12s. Seems like the tires are pretty much the same, where 4 fresh tires probably helps, but the advantage is really not there. The undercut may be not very important, as here comes Tyler Fode down pit road. Gavin Hibbs will stay out and collect a lap lead.
Yeah, I think we were just starting to see that maybe Tyler Fode was starting to hit a cliff on the tire life. Of course, that was also Gavin Hibbs wasn't going any faster behind him. It'll be interesting to see if in clean air he can turn a little bit quicker lap, or if he will also have to come down pit road, because he did lose some time that lap negotiating around Tyler Fode as he made the decision to pit. He only ran about a 13.2 that time.
Yeah, so Hibbs and Fode are going to be behind Chad Frankenfield. It's just a matter of how far behind. Frankenfield's coming down the front straightaway right now. Fode is just now exiting his pit box. Give the advantage for now to Chad Frankenfield in the 15 car. He does bypass Tyler Fode here on pit exit, but it's going to be close. They're side by side on pit road exit right now, but yeah.
It was about a wash, and you're going to see Tyler Fode's probably going to have to settle in here on the colder tires.
Right behind Chad Frankenfield, yeah.
But Chad knows he's right there, and now Fode's got to be on the other side of that coin. He's got to be the one with the fresher tires as we get further into this run.
And Gavin Hibbs will have one lap fresher tires than Tyler Fode. That battle going to rage on, but Gavin Hibbs, the leader down pit road. That'll turn the lead over to Seth Rawls should he decide to stay out, and he does. Seth Rawls will lead a lap here at Watkins Glen.
Oh, is this Ethan Stanley? Oh, he spun.
You know, I don't even think he spent 10 seconds spun out. And that's the lead he had before. Ethan Stanley is human.
So we'll see. I mean, you didn't see any of the cars he's been racing for position get by there.
The Thralls locked it up and got knocked into and spun out. That's the race leader spun out.
Hossack has been issued a tally for that. I just heard over race control. I'm sure we'll get the text message here shortly.
Rawls actually remained in the lead there for a little bit, but now it's RC Anderson who's bypassed Seth Rawls and taken the lead over, and he's got more fuel than anybody else right now. He was probably the last car to pit on the last caution flag before this long green flag run, so RC Anderson's got the longest time.
Nope, he's staying out. All right.
Rawls coming down pit road behind.
And to your point, before we saw that incident with Rawls and Hossack, Stanley still about 7 seconds ahead of Gavin Hibbs and Chad Frankenfield.
Gavin actually came out of pit road way ahead of Chad Frankenfield and Tyler Fode. Not entirely, or actually not way ahead. He's right in front of them. He's the car in front of Chad Frankenfield. So for whatever reason, Hibbs was able to make up some time over the course of that green flag run. And if we get a look here at Hibbs, Frankenfield, and Fode, they are nose to tail, but there's a little more spacing between the two Fords and Tyler Fode, where that question of whether they were being held up by that 40 car might have been confirmed over this pit cycle, because Hibbs and Frankenfield are almost a second ahead of Fode now, and they're gaining.
We'll watch on with RC Anderson. Will he pit this? Oh, now we see Tyler Fode.
Back to RC, low on the track, and down pit road will come
There you go.
RC Anderson in the 50 car. Jordan Owens will now get the lead, as we've seen a disconnect from Darren's staff. Not sure what happened to the 55, but will Owens lead a lap here? No.
Tally on Richie Hearn. I'm not sure if we saw that incident or not.
Don't believe we did.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fine.
I'll take a look and see what happened.
All right, yeah, we'll let you go searching for that one as we watch Jordan Owens lead Zach Rogers through the S's. Ethan Stanley just 2.5 seconds behind these guys. You see him in the camera shot there.
Oh, Richie got into Andrew Rucker in turn 1 on lap 38, and they got together, and Richie's the one who spun out. Crump now alongside RC on those cold tires. That's a dangerous move. They'll be side by side into the bus stop here.
couldn't quite get the run to really force the issue there, but definitely a
No.
bold move there as RC hops his way through the bus stop.
That is kind of the rub with the bus stop, is you can really bounce the car through there, and with this new curbing model, it's really rough through that bus stop, as Jordan Owens will pick up a lap lead. Zach Rogers following him, and you'll note that Ethan Stanley is the next car behind Zach Rogers there, that silver and blue car, and he is making up ground on our two current race leaders that are kind of, I think, holding out here, they're hoping for a yellow flag. That's what they got.
Oh my goodness.
I think Richie Hearn was involved in this one once again. Justin Wadsworth looks to be involved in it as well. Not on Richie Hearn. Rucker and Wadsworth are the starts of this one.
Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no. Oh, what?
It's Rucker for sure.
Oh, there's somebody spun up ahead here.
Yeah. Wadsworth's going to get into...
Oh, so Rucker's around there. Yep.
And then clips Wadsworth. And then Hearn takes to pit road to avoid it.
So I know you were saying Jordan Owens and Zach Rogers were probably hoping for a pit stop. I'm going to say no, they probably weren't, because here's the problem now. If they have to pit, everybody, and I do mean everybody, except for maybe a few guys who are going to pit for a fresh tire Hail Mary, are going to get around them. They would have blended in somewhere if they didn't get this caution. This, I think, hurts them tremendously, actually.
Yeah, it's the question is, is the one we've been asking all races. How long can you make it on fuel, right? How much fuel is enough fuel? If Jordan Owens and Zach Rogers happen to have enough fuel, they can stay out. They can use that track position, try to hold off Ethan Stanley with a rash of cautions or something to that effect. But my wager is that neither the 16 nor the 1 can make it on fuel and are going to need to pit here shortly.
I would be stunned if these guys, 24 plus 19, I'm not good at math, but that's about 43 laps. I don't see it.
Got to save a little lot. Oh, RC's driving into the wall there under caution on the back straightaway here. Under this caution, why don't we go ahead and throw it to our sponsors one more time and give them their due, and we'll be back for another restart, and we'll catch you up as to what Zach Rogers and Jordan Owens made of this mess.
Flames will burn and sparks will fly at the NHRA Midwest Nationals, September 27th through 29th at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Kickoff race weekend in style with 2 qualifying sessions in one day, plus the can't-miss show of Nitro Under the Lights on Friday, September 27th. Get tickets at WWTRaceway.com with kids 12 and under free and general admission. The NHRA Midwest Nationals, September 27th through 29th at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the IndyCar.com, 1909IndyCar.com at the Glen. The Belly Up Sports Cup Series is under caution for the fourth time. Ethan Stanley is the race leader after Jordan Owens and Zach Rogers resolved our dispute by pitting their cars and heading to the back of the lead lap. Caution, probably not what those two were looking for right there.
No, because now, I mean, we're going to see, let's see, as we look at the rundown, that's got to put Zach Rogers is 26th. Jordan Owens, I didn't quite catch what position, but he was just a couple of cars ahead of him. So that's, they'll have 18 laps or 17 laps or whatever the case may be to try and make up some of those spots. But I feel like they would have been in a better position if they were able to let that one go green.
Yeah, they were just running the long game there, but now it's going to be a sprint to the finish. We will restart, looks like coming to 16 laps to go. And, Ethan Stanley's going to be getting that really big jump on this restart. It's not going to be his teammate Tyler Fode, though, behind. It will be Gavin Hibbs. Chad Frankenfield will be lining up, looks like to the inside of Ethan Stanley, who's going to try to pull his teammate through. But Gavin Hibbs and Chad Frankenfield need to have a good restart here, and a couple of guys right behind them that are in this mix for the first time in a long time. David Tucker is up in 5th since his incidents at the beginning of this race. R.C. Anderson's up to 6th after he went off track early in the race. Scott Crump went off track early in the race. He is up to 7th. So now the question becomes, can any of these guys challenge Ethan Stanley?
Certainly, nobody has been able to do that over the first 40-some laps of this event, but this kind of shuffles the deck. From here on out, the pit strategy is pretty much out the window. Whatever people have decided at this point, they're sticking with. It's a race to the finish here, and unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever the case may be, I imagine we're going to see some bold moves on this restart, and we'll see who is able to come out of the fray up front, and if anybody has anything for that 91 Blue Egg Chevrolet of Ethan Stanley.
We'll say Ethan is, with it working towards what it could potentially be his third win of the season, in that, that Mark Martin 2001 paint scheme. It's gotta make you happy, given that he's given that thing a really strong run this year. And last year he had, I think, didn't win a race up until the season finale, or late in the season. It was late in the playoffs where he was already eliminated. Definitely a different tune from that 91 this season, where last year he was oftentimes running the tires off the car early in the run and falling back and kind of winding up involved in incidents. And this year he seems to be all business. Pace car is now off, and we are green once again. Ethan Stanley with another big jump. Tyler Fode did not get a good enough jump, I think, to get alongside Gavin Hibbs. Hibbs should have position on Fode going into turn 1, but they are side by side for that second spot. That's all Ethan Stanley needs to see. He's jumped away. Oh, Hibbs is loose coming out of turn 1. That'll give it to Fode.
That will get Fode out the second. Gavin Hibbs, Chad Frankenfield side by side through the S's. They've got David Tucker and R.C. Anderson behind them. Chad Frankenfield able to get in front of Gavin Hibbs. Now R.C. Anderson with the run down the backstretch.
Watch this bus stop here. Hibbs and Anderson side by side. Tucker and Crump side by side. Hibbs into Anderson. Anderson goes around in the bus stop.
Oh.
He's going to be avoided by everybody, but R.C. Anderson gets hooked by Gavin Hibbs, and he'll get going, but well back in the field now is the 50 of R.C. Anderson.
Yeah, that's a tough break for R.C. Anderson. He had worked his way back into contention. Now he'll fall back out of the top 10, but we stay green with 16 laps to go.
Like just a light misjudgment from the 95 on that corner entry. Try to keep it off the wall and keep it off the 50 at the same time. Chose to keep that 95 as clean as possible and avoid that wall, and in so doing got just a little bit of contact with the 50 of Anderson and sent him sliding through the bus stop. And it does not take much contact to send these cars spinning in that area. That car so light. We've seen those cars bouncing off the racetrack all race long here as we tune back towards 12th spot. Battle between Jess Story, Nick and Delicato, and Seth Rawls. Looking up into the top 10 there at Cutlip and
there it is.
Burrell, but there's the battle between Rawls and Story.
And it looks like Rawls is going to try to get around Just Story here going into the bus stop. He will do so. It's
Right
a little
side,
bit of grass on the exit.
yep, right side tires on the grass for Seth Rawls, but he does make it through.
Oh! I thought a Leighton Norgard had gotten into Ryan Gable there, but no issue.
Yeah, out of Leighton Norgard, you got Ray Bracey, you got R.C. Anderson looking on at the battle between Jess Story and Ryan Gable. Anderson throws it in up top. R.C. driving like a madman right now in that 50 car. He gets around the 7 of Bracey. Bracey lets him go.
I don't think Bracey had a choice. He got pretty out of shape there in the left-hander and kind of had to give up the spot there and gracefully slid in behind Anderson.
Jess Story not done yet. Drives it into the inside of Gable. He will not get there. Leighton Norgard now trying to take advantage up top, and Johnny Thomas loose behind. I thought Johnny was about to loop it. He managed to hang on to it, did the 83. But all this, a battle behind Seth Rawls in 12th position. That'll put Gable 13th, Story in 14th. Rather, Norgard in 14th, now Story in 15th. And Story's continuing to lose spots. He just lost one to Anderson. He now losing one to Bracey. Oh, Bracey gets into Jess.
Oh, Jess saved it. All right, so he's got to lose some spots there, but fortunately he's kept it out of the tire barriers there in the bus stop. Tough break there for Jess Story all the same. You can see there about 5 cars get by, and Richie Hearn might make it a 6 here.
Yeah, just you could see it coming too. Jess Story just was not in the racing groove there. He was just kind of out of sync with that rhythm that we see these guys running. And in this next gen car, these passes are not guarantees. You have to take advantage when you get alongside somebody, and we saw it continuing to happen and eventually contact made, but Story does fall back now to 22nd if he loses the spot to Chris Wright, and he's still under fire. Ty McIntosh now to the bottom.
Yeah, I don't think Ty had enough there. Story's got to get the run out of turn 1 and stay in front of that 35 car for now, but definitely a tough lap there for the 29 of Jess Story, who now, well, I was about to say Ty might have a run here, but then he kind of washed out to the outside there. Now he's got to be under pressure from Justin Fortner, who thinks better of it.
And that singles out our pretty much our entire top 25. I'm looking through the field. There is a battle on track. Mike DeWalt racing against R.C. Anderson. There's not much of a race there. R.C. clears by DeWalt. DeWalt looks like he lost a little bit of ground during that bus stop. Gable got by. Rawls got by. Now Norgard to the inside of Mike DeWalt. So 20 car now the driver kind of in that same sucker hole that we just saw Jess Story in, where cars are just kind of streaming by and he doesn't really have anywhere to go here. Oh, Norgard locked it up going into turn 1. Bracey now will go after Leighton Norgard.
Ray Bracey and Leighton Norgard side by side through the S's. Leighton really fired it up through the left-hand part of the S's there. He's able to stay in front of Ray Bracey for now.
That battle has allowed Mike DeWalt to scoot away. He'll try to hang out ahead of these guys as now Josh Clark fires it in on the 7 of Bracey, and they make contact, and that sends Bracey around. Can Ray hold on to it? He can. But he will end up losing all of that track position. He kept it out of the barriers, but did not keep it going straight. And that's contact from that 28 car. So Ray gets into Jess Story in the bus stop. Clark. Oh, the big wreck in front of him. Jess Story, Chris Wright, Richie Hearn. And Wright did not hold the brakes and caught Michael Hosek in it.
I don't know if he had brakes to hold. Oh, now he should hold them, though. There's still cars coming. So let's see. Gets into Richie Hearn
Hearn.
there. Oh, Jeff
Oh!
Story, nowhere to go. He takes a wild ride.
Man.
And then
Ty.
the 35 and the 26 get into him while he's trying to gather it back up. He's on the brakes, but still the car is sliding.
This was a wild ride for Jeff Story. Nick Massey got very fortunate there that the net code did not clobber that 48 car any more than the contact, and Richie Hearn, the other 40 Raceware car, disconnects, and looks like he slowed up in front of Chris Wright, and that kind of just kicked this mess off. I can't see anybody in the top 20 coming down pit road right here.
I would agree with you.
Michael Hosek spun it on the exit of the final corner there, catching up to the pace car. So, yeah, that'll set up an even shorter dash to the finish here. Ethan Stanley had about a 2-second lead on Tyler Fode before that. And we'll check out the back bumper of, I believe this is the 73 of Richie Hearn, and I don't know what happened here.
Richie Hearn just
He like stopped on corner exit.
it downshifted to first by accident is the report from Richie Hearn.
Oh. Yeah, that'll.
Yeah, actually, I think you saw some of that darker smoke as he spun out there, which would. If you downshift the first there, I'm imagining it's not healthy for the engine.
No, I'm pretty sure that ended the night
Also,
of Richie
hitting the
Hearn.
wall nose first, also not healthy. I'm sure something between point A and point B ended his night.
Yeah, I almost think the night was over for the 73 before Chris Wright ever got there. But unfortunately for Chris, Just Story, and the others, it does wad up a few more good cars on top of Richie Hearn's car in misfortune this evening. So they did catch up to the pace car. I don't know if pit road was open. I didn't really see anybody come down pit road. There are now 30 cars. Oh yeah, the pit road did open. Chris Wright on pit road, Rucker on pit road, Brent Jones hit pit road. Everybody else stayed out. And they do give the tally to Richie Hearn there, and I think that is his second of the race. So that would be, even if the motor was running in that 73 car, he would be parked.
So this is gonna get us. There you see Justin Wadsworth getting the free pass there to get back on the lead lap.
That must have happened under our, before that last caution where Wadsworth went a lap down. He'll get back on the lead lap, and that'll put, I believe, 31 cars on the lead lap. We might have lapped somebody under that caution there, but no, I believe Wadsworth will be 31st. So a lot of positions that you can lose, a lot of points you can lose here in these closing laps, and potentially a lot that you can gain if you happen to be on the right side of some of these incidents.
Yeah, because I imagine we'll get the one to go here. Survey says.
Looks like they're doubling up already.
So that's got to give us a restart with 8 laps to go, as you see some of those guys making their way off pit road.
Something I've known for a long time, but maybe the newer viewer might be unaware of. The pace car lights, they shut off at 1 to go. That's how you know 1 to go is upon us, if the drivers don't happen to begin doubling up, but they have.
It'll be interesting to see on this restart if we can get back going again, or we gotta have some more issues with everybody bunched up, because this is about as desperate as it's gonna get, right? We're down to crunch time. This has got to be your last chance to get a chance to make up a bunch of spots on a restart.
Right.
So
Yeah, and you'll note the tightness of, especially of the bus stop corner, right? That entry to the bus stop corner. We've seen contact there all race long between different drivers, and it's going to be very easy to take it side by side into that corner and come out backwards or in the tires or in the grass or any number of combinations. So I think that's been the key, is if you can make it through the bus stop without wrecking here, I think that'll probably be the difference in your race between a successful and a disappointing event. Let's see if anybody's got anything for Ethan Stanley. They haven't so far, and Stanley's been very, very strong on these restarts. He will have the inside approaching turn 1, the right-hander. And as we approach that restart zone where the pace car peels off, Ethan Stanley will get ready to go, and he's gone very early each time so far. Pace car's off, Stanley goes early. Maybe not as good of a jump as he got some of those other restarts. Gavin Hibbs is going to take a look to the middle. Chad Frankenfield on the bottom on Tyler Fode. Fode bobbles a little on corner entry, but Frankenfield bobbled on corner exit. They're still side by side, and they're going to go through the S's side by side here for second.
Chad Frankenfield into 15.
Oh,
Tyler
Fode's loose.
Oh, that's going to open the door for Hibbs if he's brave enough. No, he's got to try to cut under him instead.
Yep, here comes Hibbs giving a bump draft to Chad Frankenfield towards the S's. They're side by side for second, side by side for third. Hibbs backs out of it, lets Fode cut in front. Frankenfield goes a little bit too hard through the bus stop, and here comes Tyler Fode back on the outside. Cutlips in the grass. Oh, Fode and Frankenfield with Yep, here comes David Tucker.
Oh, Frankenfield wide.
You would think this is a battle for the win right here. 3 wide for third behind Chad Frankenfield between Fode, Tucker, and Hibbs. Fode sends it in underneath Chad. He's going to get into him.
They're wide. They're all off.
Matthew Weeks is around. Big wreck.
Oh, this is going to cause a problem.
Oh, wow, that cleared up super quickly. I do not blame Robert for throwing the yellow there in the slightest. Thought that was going to be a massive pile up. It was clear as soon as the caution flag came out. But this started up here for second. Yeah. Tyler Fode flung it in on the bottom of the racetrack and came up and got into Chad Frankenfield.
I mean, Chad is sideways because he's overdriven the corner, and somehow Fode still gets it to his door. They were both completely, frankly, in over their heads there. They both end up off the track. Gavin Hibbs home free. Somehow David Tucker also followed them to Narnia. And then behind them is where the field's going to stack up, and somehow Matthew Weeks gets around. We'll get a look at that on the Rebelus replay machine to figure out exactly what brought out the caution, but they looked like Ambrose and Keselowski that time when the track was soaked with oil.
Yeah, neither one of them hit their breaking point on that corner. They missed it by miles. But that's kind of the nature of what we were talking about. The desperation goes in here, and it looks like Matthew Weeks tried to get into the gas a little bit early, but that incident looks to be completely separate from the overdriving of the corner we saw from the front 2 or 3 there. And Weeks ends up getting sideways. It's going to collect Jonathan Cutlip. It collects Ethan Burrell. And then as soon as this gets right here, I was like, they are going to kill 10 of the cars here because the track's completely blocked. But Weeks gets it righted. Cutlip hits the Armco and stops. And that's it. That was the whole wreck. Wreck was over. Everybody had already started to check up and we were good.
And again, to the point of whether or not the caution should have come out there, the way the rule has been explained to me as a competitor on Sunday and Monday evenings is if there are 2 or more cars involved on the racing surface, race control has the ability to throw the caution. We had 3 cars involved on the racing surface. The fact that they immediately washed off the racing surface does not matter. That needed to be a caution. Good call to throw that yellow under that rule. As you can see, Racing Deal the ruling. Yeah. So again, stand by the call. We can debate whether or not that should be the rule. Certainly, there are got to be some drivers now that we're working caution number 6 this evening. They're going to say, man, I wish we weren't throwing all these yellows. I wish we were just letting iRacing handle this stuff and sort it out. And if you decide to wreck, you pay the price for it instead of getting the bunch back up with a restart. But regardless, that's not, that's another conversation, right? Some guys, it's opened some new strategies. I think it's been good on that front as far as a spectator product, but certainly it can be frustrating for the drivers when you're pacing around this road course for 18 laps out of the 61.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I would prefer my race control, just to have my race control be in charge, right? If my race control is determined, a yellow flag is required right now, then, and they fire it up, then good for them, right? That's their prerogative to make the call on the yellow flag, and I have to abide by that. And I'm certainly hoping that we bring it to some of our other speedways that are notorious for the low, caution sensitivity, where
we saw
our
it
race
control. We saw it last week in Arlington.
Right, at Darlington, where we saw a number of wrecks, and that's not a rule, but if we can just trust our race control to make the right calls and give them that kind of understanding of, if we can kind of maintain a rule, even if that rule ends up being somewhat unpopular or amended later, perhaps it's more than 2 cars, perhaps it's 3 cars, or perhaps it's, in that event, right, I saw a track blockage potential. Like that's a very easy wreck that you could throw a caution flag for, and iRacing probably would have if we had the cautions on, but we didn't. And Robert makes the call. I like the call. I think it's a good one for that. And the guys immediately had wound it up and stacked out. So, and they were ready to go. And ultimately, maybe a caution wasn't needed, but I'm good with that.
And to be clear to maybe some of our newer viewers, people who aren't subscribers to the iRacing platform, well, the lights are out, it looks like, so I'll make this very quick. But on road courses in any description, iRacing never throws a yellow. There are local yellows, but never a full course yellow. So that's why we have to make these decisions with race control.
Absolutely. Ethan Stanley gets another big jump. He will pull Tyler Fode alongside Gavin Hibbs, entering turn number 1. Chad Frankenfield's going to look 3 wide on the bottom. He'll settle in behind Hibbs. And can Gavin get a big run off of corner number 1? He cannot. Hibbs is squirrely on the bottom of the racetrack. It'll be Tyler Fode up to second and protecting behind his teammate Ethan Stanley out front.
Here we look. Yeah, this battle here through the S. Oh, trouble. Ray Bracey's around. That's another caution.
Oh, man. It has not been a good day for Bojo.
Who was that he passed? Was that
Sonny D? Looks like Ray's going to get it just a little bit loose there, and looks like the car snapped on him.
Yeah, and RC just barely kissed him to finish it off, but I don't think it would have mattered. I think Bojo was in trouble regardless, and then it just kind of pirouettes off the wall right in front of traffic. I bet this is where we're going to see Andrew Rucker get a piece of it. Indeed, clips the 64 car, nowhere to go.
Yeah, disappointing for Bojo. We're out there now. Justin Wadsworth's got a meatball flag. I don't know where that would have been from. Did he run into Rucker here? Oh, he did.
Oh, he must have. Yeah, you saw the car whip around there. I guess, yes, Justin Wadsworth must have gotten into the 64 here. We'll see from the replay here. He's got it woed up. He gets around Bojo, but now here's the 64 of Andrew Rucker spinning in front of him.
Dang.
Right on that right front corner, so I'm sure that's wheel damage.
The funny part is that, from my information, the cars in this wreck with a meatball are the 64 of Rucker, the 6 of Wadsworth, and not the 7 of Free Bracey. For whatever reason, that car bounced it off the Armco head first, and it retained its structure. about a 3-car incident that kind of meets what we were talking about before the caution there,
Yeah.
or before the restart there, where race control has to throw that yellow. There's 3 cars head on in the Armco. NASCAR's throwing that yellow if that wreck hits in real life. Like,
Right.
that's very, very normal, and they will give Ray the tally for that one. But like we had talked earlier also about his unfamiliarity with this next gen car. That one of its kind of many features, many quirks, is the snappiness of the steering, and Ray finds out the hard way here at Watkins Glen.
And while I have a little bit more time to expound on the point I just kind of jumped into haphazardly right before the restart, in your typical iRacing road course race, it will alert you if there's an incident with a yellow flag, but it is not this full course yellow with a pace car. It'll just let you know as you approach the incident, hey, there's trouble here, keep an eye out for it. And technically, and this is kind of maybe one weakness of iRacing in these road course, like official road course races, you don't even have to slow down for the yellow flag. You don't get penalized whatsoever if you full throttle through a yellow flag condition. Now, you're going to get in big trouble if you get reported for hitting somebody while negotiating around that wreck. But ultimately, if you safely manage to full throttle for it, there's no penalty for that, which is, maybe not great, but it's kind of hard to police if you don't have the human race control element like we do in a league setting here in Elite. That's where you get, these decisions such as the tallies. That's where we have the ability to throw that full course yellow that you normally wouldn't get in a road course race, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and you talk about, the caution not normally being thrown in a road course race. I also think of the tracks where a caution doesn't get thrown for, whatever iRacing sensitivity reasons there are. Like, that's why we have race control. So I've long made that push since I was sitting on the apron of the Daytona 500 one year, asking for a caution flag because I couldn't move the car. We've got race control. We've got really good guys running race control. They know what they're doing. They've watched, hundreds and thousands of races. These guys know what a caution flag is, and I trust them to make the right call. And thus far, I haven't disagreed with any of the calls Robert's made with regards to these cautions. It's just, it does lengthen this race. It's 7 cautions at a road course, a little bit disappointing, but this next gen car it's tough. You have to race it at 110%. So you're going to see people stepping over the limit. You're going to see people door banging and smashing into each other because it's difficult to pass. It tracks with how these road course races typically go. Either they're green all the way or they're a caution fest. It seems like there's no in between.
Now we see the lights out on the pace car. If I'm not mistaken, this is going to be 2 laps to go, but this is not a green-white checkered. This is not overtime. This is naturally occurring on laps 60 and 61 of this event.
Yep. So a natural green-white checkered. If the caution does happen to be waived by race control here, Robert Hill will wave it before that white flag, then we'll re-rack for a green-white checkered. If not, and we get to the white flag, it's clean and green all the way to the end. Green flag is out. Ethan Stanley with a massive jump this time.
No surprise there. Ethan Stanley able to get out front on the restart. Gavin Hibbs, Tyler Fody side by side through turn 1. Hibbs out of shape, but he hangs on to it.
Hibbs out of shape, right in front of his teammate in Delicato, right in front of David Tooker. All 3 of them lined up underneath Chad Frankenfield right here through the S's. Now Frankenfield cuts to the inside, or the outside of Gavin Hibbs, but he made contact with Hibbs. Frankenfield wide on that final S. And down the back straightaway, Frankenfield will lose 4 positions now as Mike DeWalt gets into the grass.
Can he keep it in the grass? If he can keep it in the grass, I think we could stay green.
Yeah, working underneath. Oh, Tooker around.
No, Tooker's around.
Michael Hosak's around. No multi-car incident, though. All these are single-car incidents. Frankenfield and Rawls side by side running each other up the racetrack. Give it to Frankenfield there for 5th. Seth Rawls hunting a top 5 run. Good run for the 25. That's the battle right now. Can Frankenfield get it back around Chad Frankenfield? Or Rawls get it back around Chad Frankenfield?
No, he cannot pass himself. But here you see Chad Frankenfield. Wow, Ryan Gable way wide, but that's got to put him on the inside.
3 wide right behind these guys. Gable, Norgard, Crump, Ty McIntosh all battling it out here for a top 10 spot. Okay, Crump just door slams Ty. That's the white flag lap here, boys. We're not done yet. Johnny Thomas locks him up.
Johnny! How did Scott Crump thread the needle there?
Ty McIntosh working on the inside of Johnny Thomas for a top 10 spot. It's up front. It's all Ethan Stanley. That's hardly even the battle right now. R.C. Anderson's working around Josh Clark. He has to check up for Clark. Battling is pretty much solved up to this point. That's why we're watching this battle right here. McIntosh clears by Josh Clark. R.C. Anderson's now going to get in behind McIntosh. Weeks going to work behind R.C. R.C.'s loose through the S's. The bus stop, he's going to go around.
Oh.
More points lost for R.C. The battle will now be between Fortner and Weeks. Up front, no contest. It is all Ethan Stanley. Tyler Fody and Gavin Hibbs will run second and third to the line, and in a dominant performance, presuming he doesn't lag out here. Oh, he's back.
There he is.
Oh, he's going again. Can Ethan Stanley keep connected all the way to the line? He can. Stanley wins at Watkins
big
Glen.
trouble. Wadsworth around, Rebelus around. Big trouble in the left-hander.
They wreck behind, but it is Ethan Stanley that takes home the victory. The podium is Tyler Fody and Gavin Hibbs. Nick and Delicato comes home fourth. We watch Wadsworth and Bracey at the end here, and man, there are 4 cars spinning out all at the end here.
Somebody's spinning out ahead of them, too. I think it was Carlos Acosta. I'm not sure, though.
Wild finish here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah,
It was
that is.
Carlos. Did Cutlip get into Carlos here?
And maybe Cutlip got into Carlos Acosta here.
Yep.
And he almost gathered it up, but RC kind of caught up to them.
Finished him off there.
And then Carlos got Mike DeWalt there on the way by.
Oh. A wild final lap in the 1909 IndyCar.com at the Glen. There's your race winner, Ethan Stanley. We hardly talked about Ethan Stanley because we've done a lot of talking about Ethan Stanley at these road courses, and there wasn't anyone within a zip code of him there tonight. Ethan was very strong all night, led pretty much every lap that wasn't after he pitted under green flag conditions.
5th career Belly Up Sports Cup Series road course win for Ethan Stanley. If my napkin math is correct, that makes him the leader in the category all time here in the Cup Series.
Had he just passed R.C. Anderson?
Tooker has 4.
Oh, Tooker had 4.
Tooker and Enerson have 4, excuse me. Yes.
So he has kind of set a new standard, has Ethan Stanley at these road courses, and an impressive result for Ethan Stanley. And now we can talk to our podium finishers as we watch Ethan Stanley's celebration. And we will bring up Gavin Hibbs, the 3rd place finisher. And Gavin, after a bit of a tumultuous start to the season, how good does a podium feel for you?
It feels really good. One thing's for sure, it's definitely feels good to be done because, man, I am so exhausted, but it feels so rewarding.
I mean, you talk about how exhausting, but also how rewarding this finish is. Certainly a lot of challenges tonight. All the restarts, the multiple cautions, the new build tonight. What was kind of the toughest part of the evening to navigate with all of those challenges?
I would say most likely, like, the big question mark was how were the tires going to be? Because, I mean, when we ran yesterday for practice, tires barely wore out, and it felt like one of those races where, once again you're gonna gamble on taking tires, but you'll be a lot safer taking no tires. But there's definitely was a little bit more wear than what we were used to. So, but coming to my pit stop, it's like, do I take the tires or do I just gamble? Put all the chips in on black and just gambled on no tires. And I'm glad gambling on no tires worked out.
Now, Gavin, with finally maybe a good run there, you can start maybe thinking about the point situation or the playoff situation. Is there any a plan other than just go out and win yourself one of these next couple of races?
I don't. Well, definitely the win is definitely top priority, but I say just be a lot better than how I was doing these first couple weeks of the season. Getting involved in wrecks and having issues with my sim equipments. You just hopefully we take this and run with it, and just the plan is just to be more consistent and running in the top 20, top 15 every week.
Before we let you go, Gavin, who do you have to thank on this podium finish tonight?
Yeah, obviously first things first is Shift Esports. Seth, Nick, and Ty. We always a great group of guys to race with every Wednesday, and can't thank them for this last season and a half. My business, Hibbs Designs. If you need an iRacing paint scheme made like the one that I raced tonight, hit me up on Twitter, Gavin Hibbs 1, and and then lastly, Numbers by Joe Francis's company. If you want your iRacing number or your like a personal business logo or anything like that, you want it made out of wood or to hang up either in your sim room or in your office, go hit him up at Joe F24 Ever.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gavin, and congratulations on the podium.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for broadcasting.
Now we'll go grab second place finisher Tyler Fody. And Tyler, we talked to you again. Was this another second place finish? We've talked to you a lot this year, but not in winner's circle. I guess take us through your night, but what does Ethan have that you don't there, buddy?
Yeah, you got a copy?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think this is the fourth time between Xfinity and Cup that I've been second, and it's to the same guy every time. So I don't know. Fortunately, he's on our team, so you can't be too upset. And honestly, for a track like this, I am very happy to be second because I was not thinking I'd be here. So we'll take it.
Certainly, it was a wild, adventurous night. Obviously, the restarts, worrying about like we were talking about with Gavin, how the tires would fare on this new build. Then you got some of those late restarts, and at one point, you and half of the top five were running the Marcus Ambrose, Brad Keselowski line through the final two corners. What was it like from your perspective, kind of managing all of these hurdles tonight?
Oh, it was rough. The yellows, I'm sure, made it super fun to watch on the broadcast and kept it interesting. But I was not looking forward to any of them, especially with some of the guys that we had starting up there, being real aggressive. But yeah, it's something we're not really used to doing the yellows. I know it's kind of a new thing, but it made it interesting for sure. And as we started getting closer to the end of this thing, it started to get a lot more aggressive, as I'm sure you saw, but it was fun. I'm just happy to have survived it all.
And yeah, Tyler, I mean, when's the win coming? We're used to talking to you, but we're used to talking to you from victory lane. Little winless drought for you. When's the win coming?
Yeah. Let's look at the schedule here.
Dover is next.
Dover, I feel good. I mean, a lot of people feel good. Problem is, this car is just it's so track position dependent, and the times are they get closer every week, it seems like. I mean, the top 20 tonight were within a second, which is unheard of at a road course, and it's kind of been that way at every track where anyone can really finish anywhere, it seems like, until you get to like those top 2 or 3 maybe. But I don't know. I mean, I like Dover. I like all the tracks. It's just a matter of executing. So we'll see. Then we got Bristol, obviously, which is a full distance. So who knows there? But I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I guess it's not terrible if I just keep finishing second. Be looking good in the points at least.
Before we let you go, Tyler, who do you have to thank on this runner-up finish tonight?
Yeah, well, obviously, Stanley, all the Lake Norman guys did real well. Had a lot of speed. Justin ran into some trouble right there at the end, but Stanley was such a big help to everybody, setup wise, getting us all kind of dialed in and comfortable. And then obviously a massive help the last 20 laps or so with the restart. Able to work with him on the timing there, and he was really the one that was able to keep me in second because I didn't feel like I was there on speed. So shout out to all those guys. Jonathan Cutlip with JD Designs for doing all of our schemes, and you guys here for doing the broadcast.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, we appreciate it. Congrats on another second place finish. We'll look forward to talking to you again, as I assume we will pretty shortly.
Appreciate it.
That is runner-up finisher Tyler Fody. Now let's go. No, I brought him back. Let's go grab Ethan Stanley. If I can get him. I got him. Ethan's David in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. Hey, you made another one of our road course races pretty boring. We didn't get any battles for the lead. You were just out there by at least a second all the time. Take us through, I guess, all the restarts where you were just forced to restart well and then hold that lead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most stressful part about the race. You never know what's going to happen on a restart there. Somebody might send it, somebody might miss their braking point. So, yeah, it's tough. Kind of appreciate getting a couple cautions here and there. It's makes the racing interesting and definitely throws a wrench in the strategy too. So, don't hate it too much, especially for a track like this. It's pretty fun.
So with that win, 5th one in the Cup Series on the road courses in your career, 3rd one already this season. I mean, definitely really couldn't ask for a much better start to the season. What does this do for you moving forward through the rest of the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, this helps a lot. We're coming up to a couple tracks that I'm not so fond of, Bristol and Dover. So, pretty nice to have the point lead and have a really nice buffer going into the playoffs. So, pretty excited for that, and maybe go for another win during the regular season too, and maybe try to lock that up.
Yeah, and Ethan, with that, I mean, I think back to last year when you didn't win a couple of those road courses, and we were a little bit surprised. Now you've got 3 wins just in our last 5 races. What's the key to doing what you're doing right now? Is it just a rhythm? Is it momentum? Is it you're finally unlocked something? Even like a new build today couldn't slow you down. So, what is it from your perspective that's got you on this run?
I think I've just finally started to figure out this car a bit more. Just kind of learn from the guys around me, watch the fast guys, and yeah, I mean, build today felt pretty good. I like the change to the tires. Car slips around a bit more, so pretty fun.
Before we let you go, Ethan, let's get those shout outs on this win here at Watkins Glen.
Of course, big shout out to Beleg Marketing for always being the sponsor. JD Designs for making these beautiful cars that unfortunately iRacing kind of destroyed a little bit with the new update. And big shout out to the Lake Norman guys. Another 1-2 for us. Great run for Fody. Unfortunately, Wadsworth and Gavel had some incidents. And big shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast, having to watch me race up here. And big shout out to Chad and everybody that runs the league.
Awesome. Well, that's race winner Ethan Stanley. 3rd time this season we've talked to you in Victory Lane, buddy. Enjoy your win, and we'll probably see you next week.
Yeah, I hope. Thank you.
Ethan Stanley continues to stink up our races with dominant performances tonight. But overall, just a great night for Ethan Stanley, great night for Lake Norman Motorsports. And we've had the final results up on the screen for a little bit. I do want to shout out that Johnny Thomas picked up an 11th place finish at a road course. That's pretty awesome.
Did you see I didn't have to change my graphic from last week? Remember, I already had Stanley put in for Watkins Glen, so at the end of the race, I was already done.
Yep, we were already there, but looking forward. Dover next week. Join us, same time, same place. You got any final thoughts for us, Zach?
No, I think the interviews pretty much summed it up, right? It was definitely a little more chaotic race than we've typically seen at the road courses, but I think the viewers left with an entertaining product. It seemed like at least the drivers we spoke to there at the end didn't mind the cautions too much, other than the stress of the restarts. And overall, obviously, Ethan Stanley had him covered, but we had lots of good racing behind him, and it'll be interesting to see if that carries on to our next road course race later this season, which I do believe is Mid-Ohio on October 30th. But of course, before that, lots of racing still to go here in the regular season, starting next week, as you mentioned, at Dover, and then the week off before the full distance race at Bristol. And I'm sure both of those will have plenty to talk about.
I think you're absolutely right. We got some real action-packed races coming up, so be sure to tune back on the Elite Racing Network. But for tonight, for David Huckleberry, the producer, David Westergreen, and Zach Evans, the commentators, this has been the IndyCar1909.com at the Glen for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. We will see you next week.